Hey everybody, Tyler Cruz here, also known as Always Dizzy. It's been a bit of a wait, but I am finally here with my first round recap from the 2025 Nick Peters Memorial. So this, as a reminder, if you hadn't seen my previous video, is a local tournament. So this is actually the first local tournament that I've played in since I got back into chess as an adult maybe maybe 5 or 6 years ago. More like 6. Yeah, it was 6 or 7 years ago. I forget when my first tournament was. Yeah, it might have been 2018. I forget, 2018, maybe 2019. So I don't like playing in local tournaments for a number of reasons. And I again, if you see my eyes dart over here, it's because I have all of these notes written in chess space here. So let me read some of them now. So there have been more local tournaments that I haven't played in. Now, while I do save literally hundreds and hundreds of dollars on travel costs and accommodation by not having to travel to tournaments, there's a few reasons why I tend to avoid playing in local tournaments. And I'll list 2 of them here. So first, I don't like playing local players. I know that's probably a weird thing, and I admit that. But I know like 95% of the players that play in the local tournament because they go to the chess club or I just know about them. And for some reason, like I just don't want to lose to them in a tournament setting. I feel like they'll hold over if they beat me or draw me. I feel like they'll hold it over me for forever. And I mean, I'm not saying that this is a logical fear to have, but it is. And I think part of it is because, and I hope I don't sound stupid for saying this, but the vast majority of players that go to the clubs here, they don't beat me. And partly because I avoid playing people, but there's only like a few people that beat me, that can beat me on a regular basis at the clubs. And I think that's part of my fear. I'm scared of losing to one of these players that I typically beat in a tournament setting. And then secondly, most of these players are provisional, so their ratings aren't established yet. And even if they have played a few tournaments, most of their rating is localized. So they haven't played the super kids on the mainland. So they have kind of their rating is kind of shielded and bubbled. And so that's another reason I don't like to play in local tournaments, because I feel like the ratings I'm playing against are not established, and I'm not a fan of that. So anyways, so my first round opponent was David Mitenko. And so I know Dave, as I know all of these players pretty much. But I know him from when he used to come to the chess clubs. We used to have 2 different clubs. He used to come to both of them, but he stopped going to them like a couple years ago or so, maybe even longer. But he used to be a regular. I'm not sure why he stopped coming. It might be because most players tend to want to play blitz, and he likes the slower time controls. He's traveled to some of the nearby tournaments that are on the island. I don't think he's gone to the mainland ones yet, but he's gone over to Victoria, and he played in some of those there, and he's done pretty well, actually. I know that he likes to study chess. So one of the very, very few players in my city that actually likes to study. Most players don't, at least not anymore. And I wrote that he uses chess tempo, but that's not what I meant. I meant he uses Chessable. He actively uses Chessable. He's an adult improver, and he actually scored 5 out of 5 in his first tournament. Now he was in the low kids section, but still, he scored 5 out of 5. And then in his second tournament, he scored 5 out of 6, and that was in a higher section. That was in the under 1400 section. So he is certainly capable of beating me. As a reminder, because I mentioned this in my previous video, but I'm just making sure I'm recording here because this is going to be a long video. So yeah, I think I'm recording. But I arrived to this tournament in a bit of pain because just 4 days prior to going to round 1 here, I had surgery and I had my gallbladder removed. And I wasn't really taking much pain medication. I only took a few pills and they weren't very high strength. I didn't take any on that day even, but yeah, so I was still recovering from that. And so I was originally planning on taking a bye the first round while I recovered, but I found out that I was supposed to be paired against a player that I was very confident about beating without any trouble. And so I thought I should try to go and play to get a full point instead of half a point. However, because of a last minute emergency buy from another player, the pairings were rearranged, and then I was paired against Dave. Since I was already there, I paid for parking, I drove there. I decided to just play the game, but I wasn't thrilled because I wasn't at 100%, still recovering. Again, 4 days prior they ripped an organ out of my body, and then I'm playing a tournament chess game just 4 days later. So this was a 50 plus 10 time control with 30 Sophia rules. So what that means is we are not allowed to offer or agree to a draw until move 30. It's acceptable to have a draw on the board, but you cannot offer a draw within 30 moves or until move 30. Okay, with all of that preamble out there, let's start. If you do enjoy the tournament recap report videos, give it a thumbs up or let me know in the comments because they're a lot of work. They are a lot of work. That's partly why this video is taking so long to get out there, because I have to analyze the game thoroughly, which takes me a very long time. Then I have to make all my notes and then make this video, edit the video, blah, 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 blah. It may not look like a lot, but it's actually a lot of work behind the scenes to make these things. So just let me know if you like them. Okay, so I played e4. I was white here. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but yeah, David was rated 1568. These are CFC ratings, the Canadian Chess Federation. It's basically on par with USCF. And for those international, non-North American players, it's probably 100 points higher than FIDE, roughly. Okay, so my opponent played d6. So this already was a surprise, because I'm pretty sure that Dave is primarily a French player against e4. And so, yeah, this was a surprise to me. And I asked him after the game, because we did do a analysis together after the game. And he said that he didn't want to play like a sharp opening like the French. I'm not sure if he meant it specifically against me or just in general, but yeah, he said he wanted something that was kind of more, just less sharp, less theory heavy, and that was fine with me. So I played d4. He plays knight f6. This is just the appearance. Knight c3, and he played g6. So I have an extremely narrow but deep opening repertoire. So meaning I don't deviate my moves very much, but I go really deep in lines. However, the Pierce is one of the rare exceptions where I've actually experimented and continue to experiment with a lot of different moves. So yeah, here I actually kind of go a bit wide how I play against the Pierce in the modern, especially on move 4 here. And in this game, having not played having not played this for about like a few years, I actually decided to play the 150 attack. If you don't know what the 150 attack is, you can look it up. And there's an interesting story behind the name too, which I won't bore you with in this video. I'm just trying to see, okay, how long I've been recording here. 10 minutes, okay. But yeah, I played a lot of different moves here. I won't list them all, but I'm going to count them all here. I think like 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Realistically, I played 4 different moves here, and I alternate between them. But yeah, anyways, I played Bishop E3, and I haven't played Bishop E3 in years. I wonder do I have to, when I monetize a video, I have to say if there's any sponsorship, but I can have branding in here. I'm not sponsored by McDonald's. Okay. So he played C6. This is kind of like the check variation. It prepares B5, right? You can do the same thing with A6, and the difference between A6 and C6 is that the queen can now access A5. Now, one of the things that I've always been, and rightfully so, paranoid about has been players preparing against me. And as I say, rightfully so, because this has happened. I have previous videos about it, and my opponents have told me that they've prepared against me. But what's interesting about this game is I already deviated on move 4 because I haven't played Bishop E3 in years. And then again, on this following move, I deviated again on move 5. In fact, I've never actually played this move before. I don't think I've even played it online. Maybe I played it once, but I don't know if I did. And the reason why I played this move is because just a few days before this game, I actually looked at this position with the engine, and then the engine suggested this move, or it might have even been in the database, and I thought, that's kind of weird. And then I was curious what the reasoning was, and then it made sense to me, and then I decided to play it this game. And so I did it partly because it was interesting, partly to take my opponent out of book in case he was preparing against me, and partly just to keep things interesting. What I like about this is that it can show to some future opponents that, yeah, typically I do stick to my repertoire, but I'm not completely against playing something different. So if you do prepare against me, I might play something different. And I played H3. And yeah, so H3 is interesting. Again, when I saw the engine recommend it, and typically I think the moves here are like the main idea is like F3 or Queen D2. So F3 supports the E4 pawn, and it stops Knight G4. And with H3 also stops Knight G4. But what I understand how I interpret this move as being suggested by the engine is we can then play F4 in one move. And so because if we play F3, it doesn't make sense to play F4. Plus, then Knight G4 is still possible. So yeah, I thought this was quite interesting. And I think it's also kind of a waiting move, just to not commit to something yet, to see what black does. He played Knight BD7, which is fine. And then I continued with f4. And yeah, I find this a really interesting setup because it's like an Austrian 150 hybrid. That's how I'm going to call this. There's actually not much information about this online. I did a bit of I don't want to say super deep dive, but a bit of a dive into this. There's very, very, very little out there on the internet about this setup. And I used Chess Vision AI and yeah, Google and everything. There's pretty much nothing about this out there. And yeah, so Dave played b5, and it felt like I thought forever on this move, but it was only 2 minutes actually, but it felt like a long time. And I was debating between bishop d3 and a3 because obviously the threat here is b4 from black. And so it was kind of a coin flip decision for me. And I ended up playing bishop d3, which is okay, but better was a3, and you'll see that this is a very repeated recommended move from the engine. So the reason, I mean, again, it was like a coin flip for me, but the reason I didn't play a3, or at least one of the reasons that I was a little bit nervous about it, was I wasn't sure about queen a5, bishop d3, b4, ab, queen takes b4. And I just wasn't quite sure how to assess this because, I mean, this whole h3, f4 thing, this is new to me, right? So it's the first time I've ever had this position. So I didn't have any experience with this. And interestingly, the computer doesn't care about the b2 pawn at all. So for example, if I continue with knight f3 and just let black take on b2, queen takes b2, bishop d2, protecting the knight on c3, and after he flees with the queen, computer just wants to play e5, and it says that white is much better here. So it doesn't even care about the b2 pawn. It just likes this aggression upon black. But I wasn't sure how to assess this, so I ended up playing bishop d3, and then Dave played queen a5, which it's a little. I mean, it's natural and it makes sense to continue with. It is kind of a thematic move, but Stockfish is not a fan. It prefers b4 or bishop b7. Whoops, what was I here? Yeah, so it was okay, but the computer prefers b4, knight ce2, c5, knight f3, bishop g7, and then after both sides castle, and c3. It says that this is about equal, more or less. White is fine here, but so is black. And I think the reason might be because white's knight might be better suited on c3, where it controls a lot of key squares of d4, e5, or d5, e4, and b5. So I think that's the reason why the computer prefers the knight on c3, and also why the computer will keep recommending a3. Again, this is just how I interpret it. I could be wrong. So after queen a5, I played knight f3, but again, more accurate was a3, stopping b4. And also, black's queen here is kind of on the wrong side of the battlefield, right? Because the action is going to happen on the king side. After a3, if black continues with b4, which is an inaccuracy, after a takes, queen takes, we get this similar position again, where the computer wants to thrust with e5, and then it's saying that white is much better here. So I think having experience in this position would have helped a lot. But yeah, I played knight f3. And Dave played bishop g7, supernatural again. But once again, b4 was the best move. Knight e2, c5, when again the knight is on e2. And this is just a little bit more aggressive and accurate for black to play here. Getting counterplay and initiative. So after bishop g7, I castled. But once again, a3 was the best move for the same reasons as before. And after I castled, Dave canceled. And I was a little surprised to see this because I thought by now he would have played b4. I know he like bishop g7. I understand because he can kind of put more pressure along the a1 h8 diagonal. But I thought by now he's going to play b4, and otherwise, what's the point of queen a5 if you're not going to do anything with it? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So when he did castle, I was a bit relieved because now I can play without any pressure, really. I can start attacking on the king side. I thought for 4 minutes on my reply here, and I was debating between e5 and f5, and I couldn't decide. I couldn't decide. You could pause the video now and think which one you prefer. So again, I was kind of in a coin flip situation. I just really couldn't decide. It was like 50-50 for me. Now I knew that e5 was thematic in these positions, but I just didn't have enough experience, and I don't have enough experience still in these positions to be able to assess them properly. Excuse me, because I play so many different lines against the peers I'm not an expert on any of them. And I ended up playing f5, and I just wasn't quite sure. So after I looked at e5, and then after, I think I have a lot of lines to show here. So after knight d5 and knight takes d5, c takes d5, this is actually plus 1.8, but I just wasn't sure how to assess this, and it looked a little confusing to me, and I just wasn't sure about it. And if we go back, if not knight d5, if black takes on e5, and then f takes knight d5, cd, knight g5, this is plus 1.9. White has an attack on the king side, but yeah, I was just not assessing these correctly at all. So I played f5, which is not nearly as good as e5. e5 was clearly the best move. And he played queen c7. So I thought this was kind of a strange move when he played it. I thought it was, kind of wasteful, kind of a slow move. Again, why not continue with b4? It's funny because I never stopped it. I should have played a3 a million times, and he should have played b4 a million times. So we both kind of missed this. But if you're not going to play b4, again, queen a5 really doesn't make any sense, because he spent a move to play queen a5, but he's not doing anything with it. And why play b5 if you're not going to play b4? It doesn't make sense. So I think Dave, he just doesn't know enough about this setup for black. So he knows about c6, b5, but he doesn't know beyond that. And he put the queen on a5, but he just stops right there. So he doesn't really know the fall ideas of the opening, I think. But then neither do I, to be fair, because I never played a3, right? Okay, so after queen c7, I played knight e2. So just proactively dealing with the b4 threat. But once again, and for the millionth time, better, you've guessed it, was a3. Keeping the knight on c3, where it's better. Because also the knight on e2, it's a little bit cramping, right? We're blocking the queen. We have a little bit less maneuverability here. And I think the knight is just better on c3. Dave played knight b6 here. And I thought for a while here, because I started to see a threat where my bishop could get trapped and or black could get some play. And so I was a bit worried about this. And so I'll give you an example here. So if I just made like a random move and played like king h1, I was worried about c5. And I can't actually take on b5 here because of, well, first of all, the two reasons. One reason is because of knight takes e4, right? The bishop's no longer protecting e4. And my center is, so we're trading pawns here essentially, but my central pawn is gone. So it's not an even trade. And also, and this is what I saw, like c4, and my bishop is, I don't know if it's trapped is the best word, because I think there's ways to save the bishop, but black has a lot of play here. So that really concerned me. That was black's threat if I played some other move. And if I don't take on b5, if I go c3, c4, bishop c2, Stockfish 17 actually gives this as +1. And the move I played in the game, c3, doesn't actually avoid this position or prevent it. But I was still just looking at the c5 move, and I wasn't sure what I thought about this position. I thought I might be giving him something here, more than he deserved. So because of that, I played c3 here, and he played knight c4. So the engine doesn't mind this move, but I thought it was a little silly because I can just bring my bishop back, which is what I did in the game, bishop c1, and I'm fine. And so and then I can kick out the knight with b3. So I thought this move was a little lazy, a little aimless, because it's not really threatening anything, and it's going to get kicked out. He played bishop b7. I played b3, kicking out his knight b6. And here I took on g6 because I thought I just wanted to open up lines for my light squared bishop, have it do something useful. And then Dave recaptured with f takes g6. So this move shows inexperience, straight and simple, because I think that's the best way to describe it, because I think any experienced tournament player is going to take with the h pawn here, which is definitely the best move. And the reason is because e6 is now forever weak, right? I'm guessing he took this way so that his rook is now open on the f file. It's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, e6 is now a weakness because the f pawn is no longer protecting it, and it's now a backward pawn. And even if I can't exploit it now, it's going to be a bit of a problem for black to have to kind of look over. And then I thought forever on my reply here. Like seriously, I thought for a very long time. I have my score sheet here, and I keep track of how long I spent on each move. And so I spent 6 minutes here on my reply, which in this time control is a lot, right? It's a 50 plus 10. And I went from 28 minutes down to 22 minutes on this move. Now, fortunately, I did find the best move, which was knight f4, eyeing the weak square that Dave just created on e6. So what did black do? How can black defend this square? Bishop c8, stopping knight d6. But what's funny is I played knight g5, attacking it anyways, because Black's bishop doesn't actually protect e6. I mean, it does, but it's not enough. I can attack it again, and Black has no way to defend it, right? If he defends with the queen, I just go there anyways, because he can't take with the queen, right? So there's nothing he can do to defend e6. So and that's partly why I thought for so long here, because I did see that before I played knight f4, and just e6 is so weak, and he actually can't defend it. So I played knight g5, and then a bit of a surprise here, but Dave then played rook f7, question mark. So my opponent thought for 5 minutes before playing this. It wasn't an immediate move. And funnily enough, I actually thought there was a small chance that he might play rook f7, just forgetting and that I can take it and kind of like panicking, because there is no way to defend e6 here. And when I went through the game with him afterwards, he said that he just simply didn't see it, or forgot about it. And he said that he went to the bathroom around this time and got distracted. But to be fair to me, even before rook f7, this position is completely winning for white. It's +3, even without rook f7. It's just because we have e6, right? So after rook f7, I took it, and he recaptured. And then I blundered. Right after winning the exchange, free and clear, I blundered with queen e2. And so, first of all, technically, this is not a blunder. Technically, this is still fine and still completely winning for white. It's over +3 no matter what Black does. But in my view, this is still a blunder because I didn't see the problem here. I didn't notice that this knight is now trapped and has nowhere to retreat to or nowhere to go to. And I was so devastated after I saw Dave's reply here, and I was so angry at myself. I was seriously just so disgusted with myself, because I just picked up the exchange and I had a million moves here, and I played the one move that traps my knight, and he played e5. And as soon as he played it, I realized, yeah, the problem. I didn't even see the problem until he played it. And I'm just reading my notes here. So the knight has to go. The knight, I lose my knight. There's no saving it. But I did still think I had some chances here, because I do have the luxury of choosing how to lose the knight. And I am currently up the exchange, but at the same time, I went from a completely winning position to what I thought at the time was maybe a little worse, maybe equal, maybe a little better. But I went from a completely winning position to this. Yeah, and I was so angry at myself. So I went knight h5. G takes h5. Queen takes h5. And he played king g8, which is the best move. Sorry, I should have talked about this a little bit, but again, I'm going to lose the knight. So this is I think the best way to lose it, because we get a pawn for it and we are attacking his king. And yes, so Dave found the best move, king g8, best move by far. Had he played king f8, there's rook takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop h6 check, king e7, rook f1, knight d7 protecting the bishop, bishop g5 attacking the bishop, queen d8, bishop takes f6 check, knight takes f6, and then there's different continuations, but what I think is the prettiest is and simplest is rook takes f6, king takes, and then we have queen h4 picking up his queen. And if king e6 here, then there's rook takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen f5 check, king e7, queen takes h7 check, king d8, and then we do a little zigzag in, queen g8 check, king e7, bishop g5, bishop takes g5, queen takes g5, king e8, another little zigzagging in here, king g8 check, king d7, queen f7 check. And no, I did not calculate all this, but I'm just showing you the lines. Queen d8, queen f8 check, king d7, rook f1, and then white is going to be winning here. Well, white is winning here. So he did find the best move of king g8, and I played queen h4, which is the best reply by far. Just keeping tabs on his knight. He played queen f7. And then I blundered again. But this one, I wasn't sure in the game if it was a blunder or not. I played g4. Okay, so my instinct was to play bishop g5, which is completely winning and definitely the best move. But I just kind of miscalculated here. To be fair, I was down to 13 minutes on the clock. And keep in mind that there's only a 10-second increment here. So I was feeling a bit of pressure, with the time at this point. And I just saw a bit of a ghost here. So, so after bishop g5, I thought that he had queen h5, trading queens. And I did not want to trade queens here because I have an attack. And yeah, he's got two minor pieces for my rook. So I did not want to trade queens. But I didn't realize, I just simply missed that I can just take on f6 here. And if he takes a queen, I can just come back. And I just won a piece. I just missed that. That queen h5 was not a threat. So I could have played bishop g5. But I played g4 partly because, well, mainly because I didn't want queen h5. And then I was going to try to continue with bishop g5. But for reasons, I don't want to make the video too long, but bishop g5 was better because basically now black has time to kind of untangle from these pins and pressure. So he played queen g6, and I played bishop a3. So I'm attacking d6. I'm connecting my rooks, and I'm also tempting black to blunder by taking the e4 pawn. So if knight takes e4, then I can go queen d8 check, and it's game over after bishop f8, queen f8 mate. So I didn't think he was going to do it, but bishop a3 had other benefits. As I say, we're attacking d6 and we're connecting the rooks. And then Dave played e takes d4. And this surprised me, and it immediately looked like a blunder to me, and I smelled blood. Because e5 just looked completely winning to me. And something new that I started doing recently, I don't know why I started doing it, but over the board, especially in tournament games, if I see a move that looks bad and doesn't really make sense, I squint my eyes and furrow my eyebrows and grimace. So I was doing this for a really long time, and I remember doing this for several minutes before making my reply, and I was just making sure that I wasn't missing anything, because I'm like, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, what? Like, can you really do that? So I had to look like this. I was like, like someone farted or something. I had to look, I was like, can you do that? Because it just didn't seem like that, like he could allow e5 here. So I played e5, and he took on d3. And so by the way, before I played e5, I calculated this basically to the finish, basically to mate from here. So I did actually calculate this, and for some reason I calculated this quite clearly in my mind. So I am happy about that. But e5, and so this was all, I had all this planned out. So e takes f6, queen e3 check. Yeah, I know that he had a check, but he has nothing after that one check. After this one check, he's got nothing. So I just played rook f2. He played bishop h6. What I had, I had looked at everything, but I thought if he goes bishop h8, then f7 check, and then after king f8, we have queen e8, and then, well, we're going to queen here again. But he played bishop h6. Same idea happens. So f7 check, and yeah, king f8, queen d8 check. This is what happened in the game. More accurate was actually bishop takes d6 check, and this is mate in 2 instead of mate in 3. But yeah, I went here in the game. He played king g7, and then queen g8 is mate. So yeah, I won the game. I was actually very happy I won the game, even though he's like 100 and what is that, 170 or 160 points or so below me. I felt tremendous pressure playing a local player. Like seriously, I feel like 10 times more pressure when I play somebody that I know, like locally. I explained it in the beginning of this video, but I feel so much pressure. I just don't want to lose to a local player. I just feel so much shame if I do. And despite the engine saying that the queen e2 move that I made was perfectly fine, I didn't know it at the time, and the fact is I just didn't recognize that my knight was trapped. So to me, it's still a blunder, even if technically it isn't. So I was happy to win the game. So I was actually considering withdrawing from the tournament after this game, like strongly, seriously considering it, because it would guarantee me a new all-time over-the-board rating high. And I could secure that. You know, it would be official. I would have a high rating. I think it was 9 points. So if I withdrew after this game, my rating would be 1733, all-time high. And so I strongly considered doing that. But yesterday, I decided I will play round 2. Will I play round 3? I don't know. I mean, but there's something about locking in an all-time high over the board, because, you know, I'm aging, and I'm not going to increase my rating, you know, that much, because I'm getting old, and so rating usually goes down. But so I consider locking it in. Anyways, I am going to play round 2. Round 2 is actually tomorrow, so wish me luck on that. Yeah, I'm nervous again. I just don't like playing local player. I get way more nervous playing locally than I do playing in a bigger tournament like on the mainland. Okay, so that was round 1. Let me know what you think. We got a win, and yeah, I'll be back. I don't know when I'll be back, because I do need time to analyze the games properly. So it might be another week, but probably not a week. Probably it'll be a little sooner than this time. So probably in like 4 or 5 days, you'll get the next game report. Okay, that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.